Welcome back to the right hand. My name is Greg Copeland, managing partner of Reuben Allen, administrative partner of Marshall Graham. And just wanted to chat with you today and kind of get this episode going. Um, and I think it's appropriate for the beginning of the year because new year, people try to, reshape themselves at the beginning of the year, whether it's the gym, professionally, personally, whatever it may be. It's new beginnings. And so, this episode is really for solo and small firm attorneys who choose that independence, um, and then kind of discovered how alone opening your own firm can be. And so, what we're going to do is talk about, the loneliest job in law, and it's being a law firm owner and why it feels so isolating. Um, and really the reason why is because, despite you being surrounded by clients, staff, colleagues, um, there's constant communication, emails, IMs, calls, whatever it may be. A lot of firm owners feel more alone than they ever did when they worked in a law firm, when they worked for someone else. A lot of times these attorneys come from, you know, 40, 50, 60, 100,000 person firm, and they open up their own firm, and the landscape is a lot different. The interactions are a lot different, and so you know one of the great paradoxes of law firm ownership is that you're rarely by yourself because you have these constant interactions with clients and other attorneys and whoever it may be, maybe accountants, whatever it may be. But you're you're almost always alone. And I say that because you're the one holding like the financial responsibility. You're the one absorbing the stress. You're the one making the decisions that no one else can or wants to make. And despite all of this, there are very few people that, as a law firm owner, you can speak honestly with about what it actually feels like to carry all that weight. And with all this, start to feel isolated. And in the beginning, I opened up my own firm and all is great. And ownership feels very empowering. Um, you, this is what you wanted. You finally have control. You finally get to build something and mold something your way. But what happens is, slowly, without even realizing it, that independence ends up turning into isolation. And why I say that is because now, you can't vent. Oh, you don't have a manager to come talk to, a managing partner, a practice leader to talk to. You can't burden downward because you just started this thing and you're on your own, or you just started this thing and you have limited staff, limited help. Uh, and you can't always confide laterally. Um, and maybe you might not want to reveal too much of what's going on in your firm, because you want that attorney that you're talking to still send you referrals. He or she's not going to send me referrals if they think I'm a mess. Or so, you know, if you do have staff, your staff kind of looks to you for certainty. Um, your clients, what they do, they look to you for reassurance. That's what you're there for. You're there to help me out, make me feel easy. I can't listen to your problems. Um, one of my family members, uh, parent passed away. He went into therapy, and it's not funny. I'm giggling because it was just a crazy situation. He went into therapy, and it ended up the therapist had a lot of problems, and the therapist was venting his problems upon this young man who was younger, and so yeah. So your clients are looking for you for reassurance, and not looking for you to kind of explain out all your problems to them. Uh, And what happens, your peers often see you as competition. So you don't want to reveal too much. And so what happens is you end up carrying all this and you carry it quietly. Uh, as as a firm owner, what happens is you have roles to play, and you play that role for at large, but few people see the actual role who you are. You're the stabilizer in your firm. You're the you're the problem solver. You, a lot of times you're the emotional regulator. Even when things feel chaotic, you're expected to project calm. And over time, what ends up happening is this creates emotional distance. And not because you want that emotional distance, because you feel it's necessary to kind of back off and save yourself from some of this. So what happens is you end up becoming more careful about what you share, become more selective about your vulnerability, and slowly that carefulness, what happens is it ends up morphing into loneliness. Um, and as I said this before, a lot of times attorneys don't like to admit that they need help or that they're struggling. So a lot of times these law firm owners, they'll just eat it basically, and they won't talk about this isolation. And the reason why is not because it's not real. This isolation isn't real. It's not a figment of their imagination. There actually is isolation going on, but because to them it feels dangerous. It feels to attorneys dangerous to admit that you're getting tired, you're feeling warmed out, worn out. Dangerous to feel to admit, I'm overwhelmed. Um, a lot of times we're attorneys, we think we know it all, we should have all the answers. Dangerous to admit that you're unsure about what's going on with your firm at that particular time. Uh, when you open up your firm, or even as an attorney, period, you built your identity around being capable. That's how you got through college. That's how you got through law school. That's how you got that job at that law firm. That's how you got good enough to get yourself, you know, into the position where you can open up your own firm. Um, so that identity of being capable, being strong, being the person that people can rely on, and to a lot of attorneys, feeling like if you acknowledge this loneliness, this is going to somehow threaten that image, even in your own mind, even to yourself. Uh, this may be something that you're just creating. That if I acknowledge that this loneliness is getting to me, um, then maybe I'm admitting to myself that I'm not cut out to run this firm. So a lot of times attorneys will sink into that silence. But what happens is that silence has a cost. Uh, it it shows up, that silence, it shows up as burnout. It shows up as decision fatigue. It shows up as emotional exhaustion. It shows up as inability and sometimes resentment. And it becomes a resentment toward that very thing, that very firm that 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 you worked so hard to build. Like if I hadn't gone on my own, I'd have more time. My life wouldn't be like this. I wouldn't be so burnt out. I wouldn't be so exhausted. Um, and what happens is, you know, a lot of times firm owners assume all of these emotions, all of this resentment, all this detachment, the emotional exhaustion, the decision fatigue. They just assume that this is the way it's supposed to be. This is the price of success. Um, this loneliness that I have, it's a trade-off for independence. And I'm here to tell you that no, it isn't. It's not. Uh, you need to think about a different way um, to run your firm. You need to think about support. And the most sustainable firm owners that I know, they didn't eliminate isolation by digging down. A lot of times, hey, loneliest, I just dig down and work harder and I'll plow through this. No, that's not how they eliminated that problem. They did it by building intentional support. Uh, they did it by building peer relationships where honesty is safe, where they can bounce ideas off people and say, hey, this is how I'm feeling. Have you ever felt that way? Um, they came across strategic advisors who understand both the business side and the emotions. Um, and what they also did is they found communities that normalize the struggles of leadership, not one that also hustle culture, work harder. They found these communities that were support communities, and they stopped trying to carry everything alone. And so if firm ownership feels isolating to you, I just want you to hear, I need you to hear this clearly. Nothing's wrong with you. You're not weak. You're not ungrateful. You're not failing. What's happening is you're carrying a level of responsibility that most people in this country, in this world, never, ever experience. And and it makes sense that it feels heavy sometimes because you're doing something that 1 to 3% of the world is doing, right? So I just want to leave you with this question for you to think about. Who actually supports you? And I'm talking about you. And I'm not talking about, your firm. I'm not talking about your staff. I'm not talking about your clients. I'm talking about who actually supports you as a person, me, Greg. And and if the answer to this is unclear, I think you're beginning to identify your problem right there. And maybe that, because you don't have that answer, that's an invitation to start working on this and figure it out. Um, that's what we're here for. We're here to help you out. And if you're building something right now and you're building something meaningful and it feels lonely sometimes, I just want you to know that you're not alone in this experience, and you don't have to walk that path by yourself. We're here for you. Come contact us. See you next time on the right hand.